All right. Let's let the counter come up here because it says we're live, but then it's like till the ticker starts, you don't know. But we're glad to finally get you on here, Charlie.
Yeah, it's nice to be here.
Yeah, let's wait for the ticker. No, we're
well, it's showing 23. Yeah.
All right, here we go. We are here with Charlie's London, and we're going to talk about not only her book on Charlie Chaplin that goes through the Charlie Chaplin estate, lovely family. I'm sure we'll talk about all that. We had to compress all this into about an hour, so we're going to get started, shall we? Magazine, you'll be wanting to pick that up. Wouldn't you pick up Charlie? Charlie, of course. Don't unmute myself. We have Tree Goblin in the house. He's usually here in front. Here is pinned to the top, Walworth to Wartime. We'll talk about that with Charlie here in a moment. But before we get to that, say hi, Charlie.
Hi, how you doing, everyone? I'm definitely here.
Now, are we not going to at least get a glimpse? I mean, you're going to hide behind your icon the whole time. You're not just going to like turn the camera on and off.
No, there's two reasons. One, I'm having to use my work laptop, and because of the way the security settings are set up on it, the camera's disabled. But even if I was able, but even if I was able to stream, come on camera, I'm not at the easiest spot to do it anyway. Because normally I'll stream from we've got a loft room, but I'm having a stream from a different room. So I am sorry, but we'll do it again. And I promise I'll make sure I get somewhere where you can see me. But I'm definitely here.
I'm going to hold you to that. I know some about you, Charlie, because, you endeared yourself to me very early on because we both love Chaplin. And today would have been his 135th birthday.
It would have been, yeah.
Now, this was indeed a great man. I think he made movies what they are today.
Yeah, 100%.
I think in a way he legitimized movies.
Yeah, he turned it
beyond just the, kinescope. And it was the other day. It was just the kinescopes made by Edison, anniversary of that coming out of the movies, which was 130 years ago. And so Chaplin was like 5 years old when the movies came out.
Yeah, that's very true.
So he predates movies.
He does. I mean, he didn't ever really want to go into cinema to start with. He wanted to be a serious actor on the stage, but sadly, as he learned from a very early age with his mum and dad both being music hall performers, that unfortunately someone from his background very rarely made it as a serious actor. So he had to sort of take on the very working class slapstick humor of the stage, which it's pretty much the same sort of thing as vaudeville in the States. Yeah. Very little difference. I think I think vaudeville's much more acrobatic, where musical is much more music.
Well, now he came over very early with Stan Laurel and toured America. Very talented. A lot of the, at least over here, like you say, the vaudevillian acts And Sammy Davis Jr. was one of those.
Yep.
When he was like 4 years old, he was tap dancing on vaudeville stages.
Mm-hmm.
So many people that were especially made it big in TV over here in America in the 50s were straight out of vaudeville. And I think that's why we had such a talent pool in the golden age of movies here, is most of them did come up from hard times. Like Charlie, he came up
Mm-hmm.
poor, dirt poor. And like
Yep.
you said, he was fighting the class system.
Yep. I mean, he actually was in a semi-serious production of Sherlock Holmes on the British stage, where he played a bellboy, and he really did believe that. I think it was William Gillette, an actor called William Gillette, played Sherlock Holmes. He really did believe he was going to be able to go and make it, but the thing is that he actually. I think this is another reason why silent cinema was good for him, because one of the things people said to him was, you won't ever make it speaking like the way that you do, because when you hear him speak in interviews in the 1950s, or you even hear the speech from the great dictator, that's not his real talking voice.
Oh, it's not. I did not realize that.
Nope.
Now you've shattered the illusion of integrity. Here we go. And I do think the music adds to it here, which was not in the original film. See, I came prepared, Charlie.
I'm sorry, but I don't want to be an emperor. That's not my business. I don't want to rule or conquer anyone. I should like to help everyone if possible. Jew, Gentile, black man, white. We all want to help one another. Human beings are like that. We want to live by each other's happiness, not by each other's misery. We don't want to hate and despise one another.
Mm-hmm.
In this world, there's room for everyone, and the good earth is rich and can provide for everyone. The way of life can be free and beautiful.
Hey, Gary.
But we have lost the way. Greed has poisoned men's souls, has barricaded the world with hate, has goose-stepped us into misery and bloodshed. We have developed speed, but we have shut ourselves in. Machinery that gives abundance has left us in want. Our knowledge has made us cynical, our cleverness hard and unkind. We think too much and feel too little. More than machinery, we need humanity. More than cleverness, we need kindness and gentleness. Without these qualities, life will be violent, and all will be lost. The aeroplane and the radio have brought us closer together. The very nature of these inventions cries out for the goodness in men, cries out for universal brotherhood, for the unity of us all. Even now, my voice is reaching millions throughout the world, millions of despairing men, women, and little children, victims of a system that makes men torture and imprison innocent people. To those who can hear me, I say, do not despair. The misery that is now upon us is but the passing of greed, the bitterness of men who fear the way of human progress. The hate of men will pass, and dictators die, and the power they took from the people will return to the people. And so long as men die, liberty will never perish. Soldiers, don't give yourselves to brutes, men who despise you, enslave you, who regiment your lives, tell you what to do, what to think, and what to feel, who drill you, diet you, treat you like cattle, use you as cannon fodder. Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men, machine men with machine minds and machine hearts. You are not machines, you are not cattle, you are men. You have the love of humanity in your hearts. You don't hate, only the unloved hate, the unloved and the unnatural. Soldiers, don't fight for slavery, fight for liberty. In the 17th chapter of St. Luke it is written, the kingdom of God is within man, not one man nor a group of men, but in all men, in you. You, the people, have the power to create machines, the power to create happiness. You, the people, have the power to make this life free and beautiful, to make this life a wonderful adventure. Then in the name of democracy, let us use that power. Let us all unite. Let us fight for a new world, a decent world, that will give men a chance to work, that will give youth a future and old age a security. By the promise of these things, brutes have risen to power, but they lie. They do not fulfill that promise. They never will. Dictators free themselves, but they enslave the people. Now let us fight to fulfill that promise. Let us fight to free the world, to do away with national barriers, to do away with greed, with hate and intolerance. Let us fight for a world of reason, a world where science and progress will lead to all men's happiness. Soldiers, in the name of democracy, let us all unite!
No denying, Charlie. That's good stuff.
Yeah, and what's interesting is they always cut it there. But
Yeah.
if they actually left it running for another 30 seconds longer, you get a bigger insight into who he was than just that speech, because he then says to Paulette Goddard's character is called Hannah, and he says, "Look up, Hannah," and it's actually a reference. He names her after his mother.
Wow.
But people never actually realise that, because the speech always gets cut there, but there's actually more to it. So to answer the question before, no, he never ever used voice actors. What it was he spoke with a transatlantic drawl, because he was told that his accent he wouldn't even make it in Hollywood with the very strong Cockney accent he has. Now, Mark, I think Mark's still in the chat, so Mark will vouch for this. I can't, the way I'm speaking now is my, shall we say, calm, educated voice. But when I get really annoyed, I go straight into my very, very South London Cockney accent, which is pretty much how he sounded all the time. So there's a definite, there is a definite difference. I always joke that my American friends think I sound like Adele, but I wish I could sing like her instead. Because then I'd be absolutely loaded.
Well, Charlie, action, roll them.
No, the word I'm looking for is not Mockney, commie Mark. I'm a true. He does. We have this conversation. So, in London, if you are a true Cockney, if you are born within the sound of what they call Bow Bells, and everyone always thinks it's like EastEnders and sort of the accent that Dick Van Dyke tried to emulate in Mary Poppins, like, "Oh, blimey, governor," but that's not a true Cockney accent either. And the Cockneys have to be born within the sound of Bow Bells. It's Bow Bells Church, which is just a little bit off of central London. And I was born in somewhere called Guy's Hospital, which you can hear the bells from. So by historical definition, I'm a true Cockney, even though I don't sound it. But he likes to wind me up because, you know.
Well, sure. Yeah. We've had Tommy Mark on here. He stood the whole time. He doesn't believe in sitting down.
Oh, yeah, I know that.
There's so many things I want to get to, Charlie.
Go for it.
And we can't do it all today, I know, but there are some key things I do want to get to. First, you got married.
Yes.
Okay. Now, everybody wants to know, have you had a baby yet?
No, not yet.
Not
it's
yet.
In the to-do list.
We were wondering. We didn't know. You know, some people said, I think she's had a baby. And we didn't know. I said, really? I hadn't heard that. Okay. So that's a myth. That's an
because they hadn't. Oh, what? Because they hadn't seen me on streams and stuff.
I guess. I mean, you know how the rumor mill goes, Charlie. It's just everybody starts talking.
Or have I got fat? Like, which is the way?
Yeah. Well, you know, I don't know. Do half Turkish women from your father's side, right? You're half Turkish. Yeah. I mean, too much Turkish delight, maybe. Yeah, I don't know.
No, we haven't had any kids yet. It's definitely on the to-do list. I mean, there was just certain things. We moved. We bought a new house, so he said once we'd moved and we'd settled, and I fulfilled what to. We'd like to. You know, I don't want to be pregnant with trying to lug those boxes around. I think I'll definitely wait until that one's done.
Gray man who's over in the UK, and Carrie is too. And then isn't Commie Mark? Is he over there in the UK? I can't remember.
He is in the UK, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we have a lot of UK people in here. Tree Goblin, bunch of UK people.
Yeah.
Here. if I were a Brit, I know what I would do.
What would you do?
And I hope that you take me up on this if you haven't done it already. There is an actor in the UK that acted with Charlie Chaplin that's still alive. You need to go see him.
Him? Oh, right, because there's an actress, Claire Bloom, who was in Limelight with him.
Okay.
But who's the actor? Because now I'm thinking who that is.
Now he was only a child, and he was in King of New York.
Oh, yeah.
Who?
No. I can't think of the name, but yeah, I know who you mean.
Jamie McCrimmon.
That name does ring a bell. Yeah.
Fraser Hines.
Oh,
I would be down to go see Fraser Hines anytime, anywhere, just to say. And I've heard that he says, well, I don't remember that much. He got to act with Chaplin's son in that movie as well.
Yeah. Oh, which one?
He was the baker boy, that picked his nose and did the bread and made the cake. And yeah. I would love to interview him and just say, you're one of the last living actors or actresses to actually act with Charlie. Of course, Brando and was it Sophia Loren in Countess of Hong Kong?
Yes. Sophia Loren's still alive, isn't she? I mean, the person that I was thinking of was Claire Bloom, who was Terry in Limelight. I've met her quite a few times.
And then Buster Keaton was in that movie with him as well.
He was in that movie as well.
Yeah. I mean, some of those were were pretty dark humor. I mean, whatever. But I mean, some of the stuff was recycled. I watched one recently, one of his early ones, and he got into a fight with a guy. Of course, the way he got in really was with Keystone, wasn't it? That he did a good drunk act, and a lot of his early things are, him kind of a little sauced.
The inebriate was the act.
And he got into a fight with one guy, and he bit him on the nose, kind of like in the circus where the monkey bites him on the nose.
Yep. So you are right. A lot of it is recycled, and also people think that the great silent film actors were rivals and that they would they all hated each other. It's a real that is the same one from Doctor Who. It's actually a big misconception. Chaplin tried desperately to warn Buster Keaton away from his MGM contract, and the only reason that that Keaton even got involved with it was by that time he developed a bad problem with alcohol, and he was married to one of the Talmadge sisters, who were quite a big acting, sisterhood in America, and the marriage had taken a really bad turn. But their brother-in-law was connected to MGM, and he was sort of swayed to do this by the sisters, and Charlie said, this is not going to be good for your career at all to sign this contract, and he didn't listen to him. And the other thing that shows that they were all actually quite friendly was they would, when you see sort of like Chaplin do a particular stunt or something, and then you see Keaton will do something quite similar, but he'll add his bit. They're actually it's like homage to each other. They're taking their slapstick and adding to it. And I think that's why the scene in Limelight works so well between them, because they actually just complement each other in what they do. The only thing is, if I was going to be, because people always say to me, "Oh, you must not like Keaton because you love Chaplin." It's like not at all. What I love about Chaplin is his storytelling and his theatrics. What I love about Keaton is his physicality. He was a lot more physical than Chaplin was.
Right. Now, that's not to say that Chaplin wasn't very physical.
No, of course not.
Yeah. So now I have to circle back because I was only halfway listening about what you were saying about Chaplin's voice. So how did they get around that once it went to sound?
Well, it was before they went to sound. He actually had a speech. They had an elocutionist who herself was a British actress. and I can't remember her name for love nor money at the moment, but she acted in a lot of the earlier Keystones with him. And one day she sat down with him, and she actually sort of on a boat ride, believe it or not, between Britain and America, when he was coming over to do another stint with Carno. She actually taught him how to speak proper. And yeah, it was so the other thing that's really interesting is I'll have to put it on Twitter. I have put it on Twitter before, but I'll have to put it on Twitter after this conversation and show you. But I've got authentic Charlie Chaplin autograph, and it was authenticated by the Chaplin estate. But what's
That's
really
awesome.
special about it is that
I've actually seen that. I've actually seen that on your channel when you first showed it off.
Yeah, it's
yeah.
What's unique about it is he started when he came to America to sign his autograph Chaz Chaplin, because Chaz is a very English way of like saying Charlie for short. And a lot of the press office at Keystone said you might not want to sign it like this because we don't really use that word over here. So he then starts signing it Charlie, but the one I've got is Chaz, and they're quite rare.
Wow.
So and what I loved about it was it's actually him, and it's from 1914, which is the beginning of the First World War, which is like the other period of history I study. So it was just such a lovely like combination of things.
Did you do a term paper on Charlie? How did you kind of get started with that?
I got started looking. Well, it was really weird. I've always grown up watching his films. And, you know, my grandmother would always have his stuff on at Christmas. The Gold Rush at Christmas became like a bit of a family tradition. And I never really quite understood why this was always the one of the comedians that was always on. And then years later, I started doing some family research, and I came across on Ancestry. There was something that said there was a photo that was missing, and it said, in order to view this photo, you need to contact the Charlie Chaplin estate. You had to click on the link and basically email the email address. And I thought, that's weird. So I did it because I thought, well, I don't know, maybe it's just that they own this picture for whatever reason and you have to get permission to get a version of it. So I messaged them and I emailed them and I said, I really want to get a copy of this photograph. And they replied back very swiftly and said, can we ask what's the nature of it? They probably thought that I wanted to, you know, get a copy for commercial purposes. And I said, well, my great uncle's in it. And they said, your great uncle's in it. That's very interesting. So we chat backwards and forward. And it transpired that my great uncle was sitting about 3 rows up to the top. And then 3 rows below was a young Charlie Chaplin, about 6 years of age. So they were in the same workhouse at the same time.
Yeah.
And it just got me thinking, well, is that the reason why he's always on the TV at Christmas and whatever? And that was my nan's favourite comedian. Did she know? Maybe she didn't know. But then also, could it be the fact that she was, you know, he was a South Londoner. We're all from South London. Is his sense of humour quite geographic? As in, do you have like a North London sense of humour, a South London sense of humour? And it just got me really thinking. And the more I researched him, the more I started to understand things about my own family, where they'd grown up, what the streets were like, what it was like living in late Victorian, Edwardian England, you know, little things that sort of pulled me in about learning about the working class. And it made me just so fascinated with his films. And the thing to finish that story with is my grandmother never knew anything about this. And my grandmother passed before I even started this research. So she probably never knew anything about it. But it was probably just because, oh, bless, that's mine. Yeah. It's probably just because he was from South London that a lot of people were incredibly proud of that. And that's just the reason he was her favourite. She may never have even known this thing, because when we traced the little boy, he seems to have gone to Australia and disappeared. So he may have changed his name and grown up there. He may have come back, fought in the war, and then all sorts of other things we don't know. So that's kind of where it ends for that. But it took me on a completely other turn with all the other research, and the rest is history.
It's interesting just to see the parallels of like other actors like Cary Grant that grew up very poor, just like Chaplin. and yet made it so successful. He's one of my favorites.
Yeah, Cary Grant's amazing.
Yeah. I just think, the British have a sensibility when it comes to acting that Americans respond to, which is really wild, to tell you the truth.
Mm-hmm. I get
from
that.
an American standpoint, you would think,
it's interesting, but there's a lot of people that didn't realize Chaplin was English and didn't realize that Cary was English as well. So, and I think it's because the majority of their careers were formulated in the States, so people didn't realize.
Yeah, and I just think it's amazing. I mean, like the counselor on, that's British, the actress that plays the counselor on Star Trek: The Next Generation, she's British, and you can't tell it from her accent. I'm just blown away. The first interview I heard from her, I was like, oh wow, and some Australians are like that too.
Yeah, I tell you, the one that always surprises me, apart from sort of Chaplin, my other big on-screen thing that I love and I always have done is the X-Files. And Gillian Anderson has American parents. She was born in America. No. Yeah, her parents were American. She was born in America, but she came here when she was, I think, 5 and went back when she was a teenager. And as a result, she's completely like she lives here now, as far as I know, or she's got dual nationality, but she's totally lost her American accent. And it's because she grew up with almost like, I suppose, a transatlantic accent. And then the more she stayed in one country, the more she's almost adopted that accent. And she said on an interview that when she went back to make the newest series of the X-Files about 6 years ago, she had to have an elocutionist because she totally lost her American accent and couldn't speak like Scully anymore.
Wow. Yeah. There's a lot that have like vocal coaches. Now I have to ask this: when are you shutting your campaign down?
When I probably when I finish fulfilling. I'll do a close down, because what normally happens, and it's happened to a few people that I've spoken to, and they gave me advice for this, was the minute you start fulfilling and people start, we're bringing those back for book 2. We've actually got a brand new one that Peter Gilmore's designed, which has got the cogs from Modern Times on it. And thank you so much for backing the kit and caboodle, because when that was everybody said to us that was such good value for money, because the amount of stuff that you get in it, and it's going to be exactly the same for book 2. You get a lot of bits and pieces in it as well. Little pin badge. We're bringing all that stuff back as well. Key ring, the little signed pictures. Stato's cards. Stato's cards have made another lovely comeback, including his sketch cards. They are back in there as well. Mickey's one. Mickey's got another card as well in there. 6 a.m. sticker, which is my avatar at the moment. People were really, really surprised when they opened those boxes up. They were quite surprised by the amount of stuff in it. Oh yeah, Mickey's art again.
Now, I only have one complaint.
Oh, what's that? Stato's. What's wrong with Stato's card?
Nothing.
Oh, good. I'm sure he wouldn't mind.
It had to do with this, because you had a black and white version.
Yep.
Right here, sort of sepia tone.
Yep.
And you had a color by ink spots, right?
Yes.
Right. And I did the all kit and caboodle. But I had to pay extra shipping for one item if I wanted it, which was, because I got the little mini book and I got the Charlie and Stan Keystone.
That's by William Crawford Hazel. The art on that one is absolutely brilliant.
And that.
Vinny's one.
Yeah, and then I love this one, of course. I think this was your first cover reveal.
Yeah, that was Donald DeLay's one. Still a big hit, that one. People still talk to me about that cover.
And that.
Yep, Carl's one, Chubbs.
But that's where it ended. I had bought the whole kit and caboodle, and I had to pay extra shipping for this one, which was the ink spots, because it wasn't included with the box. That was
Oh,
my only complaint.
do you know?
And it wouldn't have mattered, but you're over in the UK,
Oh, right. So
which was
we've
expensive.
we've actually
to get that.
corrected that. We've actually corrected that for book 2. So we will be putting the extra ones, because one thing I definitely tried to do is I tried to sort of take on the feedback from book 1.
Yeah.
Because I don't think you can improve unless you take on the feedback. And there's certain things that we did. Yeah, so there's definitely certain things. But if you want to talk to me afterwards and we can sort something out with that, I'm more than happy to.
Well,
I am more than happy to.
I have to ask why or when are you going to fulfill? And the reason I ask is purely selfish, because I have not backed the whole kit and caboodle this time, but I want to. And I want to make sure I get one.
Well, we are waiting now for the proofs to come back. And when the proofs are on, I did this on the first one and it worked out amazing for me. So I'm so paranoid about spelling mistakes and all the other things. Billy's one. I loved that one. So what I've done is I've ordered the proofs, because I look on the actual online version of all of the print for Donald. I look at all of the bits and pieces online, but I don't know if anyone else is like this when they're reading big text online. But I go almost like word blind after a while. So we've ordered the proof, so when they turn up, I can physically go through and double, triple, quadruple check that everything's fine. And as long as everything's fine, and everything is done, we are literally just going to be That's
original art, folks.
That is.
He's doing that again on this campaign.
I've got them all. They're in my study. Everything else is good to go. It's literally just when they get the books, I will be.
So you'll have to draw two more, or whatever the number is. One for me when I.
Well, he actually did a typical Stato. He did it on the first campaign. It was hilarious. I told him draw. I said draw X amount of them, and then he actually messaged me and said, I've done 250 because I just couldn't stop. I kept coming up with ideas. So all I did was I went through. He was we actually was on a Zoom call, and I actually went through with him and I said, which ones should I pick? And we actually went through and picked the ones that we was going to pick. So it was quite I was very much wanting to keep them all, to be fair. But he's actually become he's upped his game from the first one. So some of these are actually
I'm doing like 4x6 headshots for every backer on my book.
Wow.
And I just keep doing these. It's good practice. So, you just get into doing them, and why not do extra? Because, I may even compile these all into a book sometime, but everybody will be getting a free 4x6, and then there's sketch cards that are available, all kinds on parchment paper.
That's brilliant. I've got.
Now, are you going to go anywhere else besides Indiegogo, like maybe over to Fund My Comic?
Well, the problem I've got is that I have a contract with the Chaplin estate where the contract stipulates Indiegogo.
Oh,
and the reason, but the contract now it's 4 years old. So in reality, Fund My Comic and other sites didn't exist before that.
Right.
So I can ask for amendments to the contract. So I could always do that. But the only real reason that was put in the contract was because there was an unofficial Chaplin comic that was on Kickstarter. And even though the Chaplins had tried to get it removed, the sort of the legalities of the comic, because he was a public figure and it was satire, Kickstarter wouldn't remove it. And the person who created it pretty much almost like stuck his middle fingers up at the Chaplins and went like, I'm going to do what I want.
Unauthorized version.
Yeah. So because of that, and they wanted it to be known that this was an officially licensed comic where I was not only using his image professionally, but I was also using stuff from the archives that wasn't readily available. and the people that bought this had almost an exclusivity on the history and what I was doing, it was written into the contract it would be Indiegogo. So
how have they been to work with, the Chaplin estate?
Absolutely like a dream. I don't get any issues at all with them. They are as good as gold.
Well, they probably think the same about you.
I hope so. That'd be nice. I mean, people always say to me, "Oh, aren't you a little bit worried because of all the, the negativity around CG and stuff like that?" And I always say the same thing. They followed me now for over 10 years on Twitter. They're quite active on Twitter. I shared one of their tweets today, and they see all my stuff. And if they're very happy with what I'm doing and that I'm not bringing their product into disrepute, I don't really have any concerns.
But
and
Chaplin's eldest daughter was in Dr. Zhivago. She's an actress herself.
She was Geraldine, and her daughter is also an actress. And one of the most famous things she was in was Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I mean, you can really go back and trace. I mean, kind of like the Barrymores, all the way back to the silent era.
Yep,
they're old Hollywood.
They are, and I think. And I've said this many, many times, and I stand by this. If Charlie's story can't exist in this space we have created for ourselves, it can't exist anywhere. It's the epitome of cancel culture. What he experienced was the epitome of cancel culture. And the fact that even now they're still every now and then they'll try to cancel him. I read some stupid article the other day again about the young brides and all this stuff. And I just roll my eyes because, and actually that's another thing what I want us to give real credit to the Chaplin estate for, is that we had an honest, frank conversation about book 2. Book 2 is going to look a lot at his personal life because during the 20s and the 30s, that was almost eclipsed his films, which is ridiculous when you think of what the films he produced in that time. It
happened at Fatty Arbuckle. That was really the first big scandal, and he was in a lot of he was in a lot of Chaplin's early movies with him. Fatty Arbuckle.
He was. They were in quite a few together. But the thing is, I had this honest conversation with them, and I said, "Look, I'm going to have to talk about this stuff, and how do you want me to handle it?" And they said one very simple thing to me: tell the truth.
Yeah.
And and I did. I did.
Lita, I just watched this in The Kid. I just watched The Kid, which made Jackie Coogan the largest thing since Chaplin. I mean, he was the highest paid actor, child actor. Of course, his parents kind of took the money, as you know, and the Coogan Act came in, protecting childhood actors. But Lita Gray, that played sort of like an angelic, she was 13 at the time. Her birthday was yesterday.
It was.
And she played the flirtatious angel in that dreamlike sequence in the Kid. And he got her pregnant and quickly married her at 16 to avoid scandal. So you're going to have to delve into that on this book, or is it the next one?
No, it's done. It's the one that's it's the one that's on print. It's not a big spoiler or a big secret. She even back to when she worked on The Kid, her parents lied about her age. They actually had her birth certificate and her passport doctored to make her look. When she made The Kid, she said that she was 16.
Right.
And she that's her signature, isn't it? Yeah, Lita Gray Chaplin. Yep. Yeah, so she was 16, and then so when they made when she auditioned for the Gold Rush, which is actually which was the film that he met up with her again, and she, in the end, she wasn't in the Gold Rush because she became pregnant. Her uncle phoned him up screaming that he was gonna basically hunt him down with a shotgun. And he was like, why? What have I done that's so terrible? And he said, do you realise that she's only 15? And he was under the impression she was 18 coming on to 19.
Do you think that the Chaplin, the early 90s Chaplin, Rodney Downey Jr. movie really helped perpetuate the womanizer type thing?
I think the problem with that film, and it's so classic of Hollywood, fantastic actors in it, terrible script. And Richard Attenborough, he was at fault for that. I mean, I know Chaplin's biographer very well, David Robinson. He's in his 90s now, and he was the if you go to the credits of that film, it says it is based on 2 books. It is based on My Autobiography by Charlie Chaplin, and it's based on
is that the Anthony Hopkins character in that movie?
Yeah, there's a really funny story with that. For my 30th birthday, some years ago, I had my birthday in the Cinema Museum in London, which was actually the workhouse that Charlie and my uncle were in. Is now a
When is
museum.
your birthday, Charlie? So I can write it down on the calendar.
22nd of November.
Oh, okay. I'm 2nd of November.
Oh, are you? My birthday's a bit horrible though for American history because it's the date of the Kennedy assassination.
Yeah. You're almost Doctor Who Day.
Yours is Doctor Who Day.
No, yours is almost Doctor Who Day.
Is it? What's Doctor Who Day?
The 23rd, the day after.
Well, I did not know
when
that.
Doctor Who first released, November 23rd, 1963, everybody was talking about the Kennedy assassination, so they showed it a week later on the 30th. But it was first shown on the 23rd, but it got overshadowed. It still got good ratings, like 4 million and something in the UK. And then I think when they re-showed it a week later, it got like 10 million. So,
do you know there's another famous story to do with that? The Beatles album, Please Please Me. It was released on the 22nd of November over here, and they were desperate to crack America, and they ended up having to release it later because of the fact that what happened with the Kennedy assassination. So going back to Lita, so they married, and they married in Mexico. Now, she has, from a historian's point of view, forget as a Chaplin historian, just a historian's point of view. If I was researching Lita Gray, I would be very, very skeptical of any of the information on her unless I could back it with other sources, simply because she changes her story more than the weather changes. 1 minute he was a brute, the next minute he was the nicest person on earth, next minute they were totally mismatched, next minute she was too young. And as a result of this, I think that you always have to look at other information around her. I think she was totally managed by her parents.
Yeah.
Because her parents had very much pushed for her to go to court. It was one of the most sensationalist divorces of the time. She walked away.
Divorce had a stigma to it then. Yeah.
But she walked away with a lot of money, and she was broke within 18 months.
Now, this is the one where the actress that played on Taxi, I don't know if you know that show, but with Danny DeVito and...
Yeah, I know it.
Okay. She played the sort of whacked out person that Mary, that kind of stalks him in the Chaplin movie. On the lawn and
no, that wasn't her. No, that wasn't her. That was that's a totally different.
She was a real Lulu in that movie.
No, that was Joan. That was Joan Barry. So Joan Barry, this is she had obsessed over him, and they had met a couple of times, and they had he'd promised to give her acting lessons because he was looking at, I think it was The Great Dictator. He was looking at casting.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't The Great Dictator. It was later than that. I think it was Monsieur Verdoux. And she had gone around saying that she had a relationship with him and that she was pregnant with his child. And he was saying
not true.
No, it wasn't true at all. He took a blood test. She took a blood test. The actual evidence come back that he wasn't the father. But the state of California didn't recognize blood tests conveniently. And
we're talking early on, things weren't established. Pre-code films did not come in censorship, heavy censorship till like the early 30s.
No, that's true.
And which is amazing. You know, I think looking back recently on some of these films, Charlie, that and that's not your real name. She's in witness protection program, folks. We cannot divulge her real name. Uh, uh, Charlie said they say communists may spread out all over the world, and I say, so what? It was Charlie Chaplin a communist?
No, he wasn't. And but this is I had this same conversation with Ethan, and
Right.
I said the problem is you have to look at a bigger picture, bigger than Chaplin. You have to look at the British the British political system, and the American political system. In America, you have a two-party system. You're either left or right. You're either a blue or a red. You know,
Right.
and in Britain, you have a centre party. Now, the centre party, depending who's in charge, can either be centre right or centre left. And I think that Charlie was centre left. He loved the old traditions of living in the country that we did. He was pro British Empire, but he wanted the empire to do good for the people that it had colonised, not impose British values on them. And he also, on the other hand, liked the idea of the state looking after the people more. So, for example, he made the fatal mistake on American television of saying that we had socialized medicine. Well, if you, in the height of the Red Scare, are using the word socialist, what do you expect your American audience to automatically assume it is? I mean, we got the National Health Service in 1948. There was a communist revolution in China in 1948. You have the Korean War happens round about 1948. So you can see, as far as America are concerned, you also have the Berlin blockade and the Berlin airlift happen around this time. You can see from an American point of view, they must have been quite scared that Britain was turning to communism. And then you had this big figure who was literally a bridge between Britain and America, saying how he thought that certain things to do with socialism were better. But in reality, he was talking about just having certain trends. A great example I can say quickly before we move on to something else. One of the Chaplin's biggest problems was sometimes he was very stubborn with the information he shared. If he didn't want to share it with you, even if it wasn't to his best interest, if he'd made his mind up, that was all he was going to do. And that was a big problem, because if he had been honest and said the real reason why he didn't want to give up his British citizenship and become a citizen of the United States, I don't think he would have had the problems he did. But because he kept saying to people, it's up to me, why do you need to know? I pay my taxes here, what's the problem? People just automatically assume that he was unpatriotic. The real reason, and this is not sort of some conspiracy theory, his children say this, the estate say this. I've seen letters in the archive between him and Una, his wife, that say this. Letters between him and Winston Churchill where he says this. He didn't want to give up his British citizenship because he wanted to be knighted. He still had that burning desire from when he was a child, that because people had shunned him for his working class background, that he couldn't be a serious actor. Now he was the most famous man in the world. He wanted to be Sir Charlie Chaplin.
I think he became a serious actor. Maybe not the way he thought, playing Macbeth and being Sir Laurence Olivier. But he absolutely, I have to ask you this before I give it away. What's your favorite Chaplin movie?
Actually, my two favorite Chaplin films, one of them doesn't surprise people, one of them really surprises people. Okay. So actually, to be honest, it's three, but the one that is the one that warms the one that warms my heart is The Kid, because there's the backstory of how the kid was made, the fact that really he is Jackie Coogan's he is Jackie Coogan's character. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, and Jackie Coogan is, for you people that don't know, it was Uncle Fester, played Uncle Fester among other roles in the Addams Family in the 60s. That's what he's best known for. But That
So
made
that one.
that made him a worldwide. Charlie Chaplin was, and he did it for Coogan too. Was one of the Charlie Chaplin was better known around the world than the president of the United States. He was the most well-known person in the world at one time, and I think Coogan was right up there with him.
Well, I tell you something that I found hilarious when I actually was I say hilarious. If it had worked, it definitely wouldn't have been hilarious. In the 1930s, the Japanese really wanted to go to war with America.
Right.
So when they found out that Chaplin was touring the world, they tried to entice him to come to Japan with geisha girls and a load of pornography.
Wow.
And he wasn't having any of it, because what they were planning on doing is when he got there, they were going to assassinate him.
Oh, really? Woo!
And
better
somebody
that he didn't give in to temptation. Then, you know,
and somebody turned and said to him, to the leader of Japan, Your Excellency, Mr. Chaplin is not American; he's British. And they decided, because of the colonial impact of trying to declare war on Britain, because of strategically where Britain was in the world, they decided that probably wasn't a very good idea. And there was no point in killing him if they weren't trying to get to America, which is they really thought this was because they believed he was American. They thought it was gonna cause all out war with America.
Right. Wow. And that was when?
The mid 1930s, I think.
Very early on. Wow.
Very early on.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, to go back to what you said, so obviously we have the kid, the circus, which is such an underrated Chaplin film, because he doesn't actually talk much about that film, because not only was he during the production of that film going through his divorce from Lita Gray, but his mother also died while it was being made, and the big top burnt down and some of the set was stolen over a weekend, so it felt like the film was cursed. Pardon me. So the other thing was the other one that is, again, one that people do not realize, Monsieur Verdoux. I love Monsieur Verdoux, and I love it.
That is the 1950s sort of black comedy where he's trying to kill his wife, right?
Yep, and I love that film because it's so different. I mean, obviously, I love The Great Dictator, and I love Modern Times. I'm never
talking to you again because you didn't mention my favorite.
What's your favorite? What one have I not mentioned? The Gold Rush. City Lights. That's
how can you not? That tears me up all the time. Hey, Katie. That
I mean,
all the time. It's got one of the greatest, I think, maybe you got the Gold Rush, which was Charlie's favorite. You got, I mean, on the top 100 movies of all time, Charlie's got 3.
He has
top 100 of all time.
He has.
And that's Gold Rush, that's City Lights, and
Great. As far as I remember, it was The Kid.
Was it The Kid? Okay.
I'm sure it's either The Kid or The Great Dictator. It's one of those. It's one of those two, definitely.
And The Great Dictator was like one of the top 10 movies in 1940 at the time.
Interestingly, though, this always fascinates me. When this film was released, bombs were dropping in central London. I've actually got in a folder of mine a newspaper clipping from the 1940s where it clearly states, it's telling people not to go and watch these films in a blackout in case bombs start dropping, and they're going to stop showing these films because Chaplin films, because so many people took to the cinema, they were worried about it being big groups and they couldn't evacuate them. That also happened. That also happened in 1921 with the release of The Kid, because they were scared about these small places that were holding all these people. The Spanish flu pandemic happened, and they were scared about all these people going to see these Chaplin films and spreading the virus quicker. Which is kind of ironic considering what we've come out of. But I do yeah, I just don't. I definitely love. City Lights is an interesting one because City Lights is such a cinematic masterpiece. But
Okay,
Chaplin
you're
and
you're you're
Virginia
starting to,
Cheryl.
warm my heart a little bit now.
Well, yeah, but
I'm less offended.
but I might actually say something now that you might not like.
Oh God. Okay.
Chaplin and Virginia Cheryl hated each other.
Oh, I knew that. Yeah, I
Yeah,
actually watched a documentary on that recently. They did the lead actress in that. She was a recent divorcee out of Chicago, and he actually like did 300 takes of where he gets out of the car and gets some flowers or gets a flower from her, and
yeah,
he kind of wore her down,
yeah, that's
so
true.
that she wouldn't overact. So she kind of go through the motions and it would look more natural. A lot of directors would later use that, but he was one of the early ones that did. He would actually wear the actors down,
Yeah, he
to
did.
get the performance that he wanted.
He did. In fact, he did fire her at one
Yeah.
point from
Yeah,
that.
he was going to replace her, but they were too far along and with the movie to
Yeah,
do
he
that.
actually
And it
so
wouldn't have worked. The actress that he had in mind who had worked with Charlie before just did not have it. I think it was. I'm glad that she stuck. I mean, you cannot watch the ending of that and know the story and not be touched.
No, it's very true. There is footage. I'm not sure if it's in public domain or I've seen it in the Chaplin archives, but
Right.
Georgia Hale was brought back onto the set to film scenes.
Yes, and she
And
did do that, like with the flowers, like the
yeah,
at the end scene. Yeah,
and he said it just doesn't work.
it doesn't. No,
Um,
it didn't. She did not have the same charisma with him or on the screen presence.
yeah.
Um, and she played the blind part so nicely to be. She was not an actress.
No.
That was her first role. It might have been her only role.
I don't remember seeing her in much else, so I'm assuming he
Yeah.
put her off Hollywood,
Yeah.
which I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, he was a very hard person to work with. I mean, he was plagued by the idea that he was going to end up with the same mental illness as his mother. He was a
Right.
total workaholic. I mean, Buster Keaton, poor soul, he developed alcoholism and that ruined his career. But in reality, Chaplin's addiction to perfection, which is very hard to get, really
Right.
destroyed a lot of his life too.
It did. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like a tragedy, for sure. One last question, Charlie, because I'm very cognizant of your time and very appreciative of it. I love you to death. You just don't know how much. Anyway,
Oh,
those early films, I think were treated with a sensibility. You see some Christian, like Christ carrying the cross up a hill, and cut away very in the kid, where her sin was having a child out of wedlock, although they didn't put it like that. It was inferred. You knew what was, and divorce and out of wedlock was so much more scandalous back then. But I don't want to come out and just say, was Charlie a Christian? What do you think his spirituality was? How do you think his worldview was?
I think that he would have he never really comes out and says he's one religion or another. He definitely, he also doesn't, he doesn't denounce religion. He's very much, if somebody has a faith, they have a faith.
Well, he met with Mahatma Gandhi. I saw a picture of him today.
He did.
He did. He met all the big people, at the time.
He did, but I think he did that in the 30s because he genuinely wanted to be around these interesting creatures of culture. And I think the
Albert
other thing,
Einstein.
Well, yeah, exactly. But I think
was at the premiere of City Lights.
Of City Lights, yeah. I mean, I think going back to your point before, I think that because in the speech of the Great Dictator, he quotes a verse from the Bible. So I think that in reality, he loved what religion could do to bring the best out in people, but he also was very conscious that it could equally bring out the worst. And I think, that was probably where he was.
Well,
because
he did the Pilgrim.
Yeah,
which was kind of like a con man in Parsons' clothes, right?
Yeah, and actually, there was a couple of Christian organisations that were trying to encourage people to boycott the theatres when that was on, and he couldn't believe that they had taken it so seriously. When his brother Sidney was actually saying to him, "What the hell have you done making this film?" he laughed, because he really didn't. It goes back to that thing that I said to you before, a British sense of humour and a British personality. I've learned something very, very humbling while I've been in CG, and that's that I genuinely thought that, oh, my American brothers and sisters are going to understand everything I come out with, and I'm going to understand everything they come out with, and you know, at the end of the day, we are just the same person with a C that separates us. And I can honestly say that's not the case. There are so many times. Been so many times when I've said things and I've had to translate, or someone said something to me and they've had to translate what they mean. And I don't mean like literally translate. I mean just that even though we speak the same language, culturally we are quite different people. And I think that caused him a problem. And I'm pretty sure it causes Americans that have come here and made their money a problem, and Brits that have also gone over there. I think that we take for granted that we are still the same as we were hundreds of years ago, but we've definitely got different things going on. The best thing, though, another fantastic person from your neck of the woods, Mandy Summers, who Mandy and I have had some great conversations where we've literally had to translate for each other. I'll come out with something and she'll go,
where is Mandy? I'm in Arkansas. Where is she at? The South. I know she's
in. I can't remember the top of my head. I know she's in the South, but she has her southern sayings, and I have my South London sayings, and it's quite funny.
Yeah. Well, now I lied. Two more questions, which is, what was the first book about, and what is this book about?
The first book is mostly about how his London childhood created the movie star that he would go on to be. So the fact that very much his artistry and everything involved was from the roots and the streets where
he went to other countries, folks, they carried him on their shoulders to get him through the crowd.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I mean, there's pictures of him staying at the Ritz Hotel in London in 1921, and if you just took him out the picture and said to somebody, when was this picture taken? People would say to you it was during Beatlemania or something like that. It's the same craziness, absolute mental.
It was the first big celebrity.
He was the first £1 million star.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, over $1 million contract. Absolutely.
Yeah,
and a founder of United Artists, along with Mary Pickford and all the rest.
Douglas Fairbanks. Yep.
Yeah.
In fact, the remnants of United Artists, because it was broken up, and Miramax was a company it was broken up into. What then Miramax became, I believe, the person that owns that share now is Tom Cruise.
Oh, wow.
I'm pretty sure.
Good for him. What about this book? What is this book about, Charlie, real quick?
So From Warwolf to Wartime is the next part, and it goes from 1921 to 1940. So it ends with the speech from the great dictator. And what's absolutely fantastic about that is, which I didn't know until I embarked on book 2, the speech from the great dictator has its own copyright. Because it is used in so many things, the chaplains have a total separate copyright for that. So you have to apply for license for that as well. Wow. But they actually said to me, you don't have to apply for this. We've added it into your contract because you cannot possibly do the book without it. So I didn't even have to ask for it, which was lovely. Which goes back to your point about working with the estate. They could have very easily got funny and told me I wasn't allowed to do this or I wasn't allowed to do that. Oh, thank you, Shadowhawk. Thank you so much. I love being here as well.
Well, we love
And
having you here. He's my co-host every day. So, and sadly, he's at work. He wanted to meet you as well, but maybe next
well,
time. I mean, we
there will
realize when we
100%.
start our 4 o'clock shadow, it's 10 p.m. over there for you. So that's quite late.
Well, if we was to say if you guys were around Saturday or Sundays, I'm free at that
sure.
time to do that. That's not a problem at all. The big problem I've got tonight, which is unfortunately Charlie's birthday's fallen on this day, is tomorrow I have parents' evening at my school, which means I'm finishing quite late. And I've got a lot of parents to see of because obviously I'm a teacher.
Mhm.
So it's just unfortunate that sometimes I have to divvy up my comic life and my work life. But we will definitely, I really want to do this again, 100%. It's been really, really lovely.
We're glad to hear that. Sunday, we're having on Peter Gilmore, another UK person.
Peter has done so much work on book 2. He's done a cover. He's designed the new. So we've got the Big Top Circus box in book 2. He's got a new Charlie's London design on the front, which is Charlie going through the cogs of modern times. He's designed, so it's the same box again, but it's a new design. He's designed that. He's done a print. He's done the colouring work this time because sadly Inkspots wasn't available as he was for book 1.
Yeah,
but
he's doing Frog G.
If I hadn't have told my backers, which I would never do because not only
Graham Nolan worked on this project.
Graham Nolan did, which I'll get to in a moment. But for the colouring, if I hadn't have told my backers, which like I say, I always would have done because not only do I want Peter to get the credit, but they have a right to know who their colourist is. Peter has done such a good job, a spectacular job of matching Inkspot's colours to book 1 that it's such a beautifully continued series of books. I couldn't be prouder than it. And of course, like you say, Graham Nolan did a cover on the book, and even which has been a fantastic. People have backed that like so amazingly. And also Mickey, the internal artist, he's also done his own cover, which is a Modern Times cover. So we've got some really, really cool things on book 2.
So are you totally moved into your new house yet?
We have totally moved in.
Okay.
We have totally moved in. We've been moved in for a couple of months. I have a loft room, which is getting ready to turn into a portable fulfillment centre. And I've also, which also we normally stream from up there. We've got an actual area to stream on, which has been brilliant. So yeah, it's all systems go.
Well, Charlie, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. If weekends, anytime that's good for you. I was hoping to get this in this month because I start back, my job is seasonal and I start back like at the beginning of May. So I won't have the evenings, which is late for you anyway. So it really wouldn't matter for you, I don't think. But, I'm trying to get in some of these people now before I have to, where I'm unavailable in the afternoon. Because a lot of people, that's when they're available. But if you need a weekend, a weekday, we need to talk some more Chaplin. This is, more inexhaustible.
Oh my God! Listen, if you want to get me talking about one thing, definitely. If it's not my favourite football team, which is something else I'll talk about for years and years and years, Chaplin is definitely the thing that I will talk about. So you have no doubt about that. I will always.
I've sit here and I've learned a few things that I didn't know, and hopefully you did too. But
I did actually, and that's what I love as well about being a teacher. I say this to the kids every day. I said, don't ever think that you don't teach me as much as I teach you. And I love that's another reason I love
it should be.
Yeah, of course. And that's another reason why I love streaming when I get the time to do it is because
it's called a conversation.
Dialogue. Exactly. Yeah. And that's another thing that I love.
Well, Charlie, thank you again for coming on. I can't
problem.
Thank you enough for it. And I can't let's don't wait another year.
No, hell no. We definitely won't. I'm going to make sure we can put it in the diary and it is a thing. Don't worry about that.
And if you want to come on when Peter Gilmore comes on Sunday too, because he's part of your art team, feel free. I'll drop you the link.
Yeah, what time are you guys doing that?
Yeah, and then we have anniversaries and stuff. This is not part of the 4 o'clock shadow, but today we will be celebrating episode 719. So we've been doing this for a while. We'll reach 1,000 at the episodes early next year, so I'm excited for
Wow.
that. Yeah, we're gonna kill it this year. But thank you so much for coming
No
on
problem.
again. I do have some announcements. We got the Free Focus coming on. We have secured him for the May 4th. He does Octopus Cowboy, which is awesome. Anything else? No. Well, Peter Gilmore on Sunday. That's been lined up. And we got Chris Evans, Red Dress Press coming on the 27th. So we got a lot, and Doc's launching, and Rex X and Apex show. We got Jason Raddick coming on tomorrow. So a lot going on, Charlie, but you're the pinnacle of the year so far.
Oh, well, I mean, what time is Peter coming on with you on Sunday?
I think at 4, which would be like 10 p.m. your time. It's late, but he agreed to do that. He's been on before.
If I'm around, drop me the link. I definitely will. I'd love to.
Okay. I didn't realize, I had forgotten that he was actually working on this project with you. So that's awesome.
Let me tell you something about Peter quickly before I go. He is probably one of the most hardworking people in CG. I've asked him to last minute to sort something out for me, or can you just fix this on here, and within probably an hour, he's come back to me with, there you go. And it's he's just so
quick.
brilliant.
Yeah.
He's
crew.
Brilliant.
Keep collecting. That's a wrap.